So now that the SIEM rule is up and running, over here as you can also see that it's enabled already. So right now what we need to do is to basically trigger this rule. So let's go back to the Linux server. We will then try to replicate multiple failed user logins over here. So now after the SIEM rule has been configured, so right now what we're going to be doing is to trigger the detection. So over here on the console, I'm going to be attempting to trigger a few attempts, login attempts, basically with the wrong password. So over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this command. I'm going to run ssh test user at localhost, right? It's going to prompt me for password, but I'm not going to enter any. So basically, I'll receive a permission denied and I will try again. So I'll keep doing this and repeat this process until I minimally have attempted more than 5 times. So typically, this should have triggered the SIEM rule, but of course, it's going to take some time. So in the meantime, let's make sure to see that the authentication failure has actually been logged in the log file itself. So let's run a tail. So as you can see over in the log file, yes, actually all these attempts has actually been logged. Right. So now the only thing is to make sure that the authentication failure logs are arriving in TrueWatch and then the SIEM rule has been detected. So now that we have confirmed that the failed attempts are logged properly in the log file as an authentication failure event, now we will need to confirm if the data kit is actually doing its job of pushing the data up to TrueWatch. So as we navigate to signals, over here we can actually see if any security event has been triggered. So we can also reduce the time window to get a more accurate result. Over here, clicking on the past 15 minutes, that will mean that I can see in the past 15 minutes if any security events has been triggered. So as you can see, in the past 15 minutes window, there's actually 4 events. Furthermore, we can actually also utilize the filtering system, right? You can basically filter by alarm policy, rule name, host, and even through DQL. Moving on to step 6, which is the alert and notification portion. You will realize that once detection fires, TrueWatch actually generates a security event, an event that includes important information such as user, host, IP, attempt count, and even timestamps. But of course, detection without notification isn't useful at all. So the final step is to actually make sure that the notification is actually being routed to the right team. So before we check if we have received any notification, let's confirm the data in the security event. We can then see if the failure count, file path, host, user info are all correct, which in this case, yes, there's a failure count of 6, host is Ubuntu, user is actually test user, which everything aligns with our actions. TrueWatch actually uses alert strategies which references the notification target. So for this demo, I'll be routing it over to Microsoft Teams, but the same approach can be applied to email or custom webhooks. So once the rule is enabled with the correct alert strategy, notification should fire automatically when the rule triggers. Let's take a look at the alert strategy in which I've picked. So I've actually picked the first alert strategy, and over here you can see that I have a couple of notification targets configured over here, one mainly being a LUT bot, and the other one for Microsoft Teams. So in order to confirm that this notification target is working, let's just take a look at notification targets. As you can see, my notification target has been configured over here and it's enabled. All right, now that the detection has fired, this is what an operationalized SIEM looks like. You can see that TrueWatch has pushed a notification straight into Microsoft Teams, so the right responders can see it immediately. The alert include key contexts such as the user, host, failed attempt counts, and also the map MITRE technique. This way, the team can then triage fast and also decide the next course of action. If you need more reference on how to configure notification targets, you can actually reference this link over here. And of course, sending out notification is just one of the actions that you can take. You can actually even try triggering automation to reset, block, or quarantine. Moving on to the last step, which is investigation and response. Typically, teams will execute the four following actions. Firstly, to view the proof by opening the exact log files that trigger the detection. Second, to check the scope. So for example, whether the same source IP is targeting other users or systems. Third, from all this information, you can then add context by viewing host activities or surrounding signals to confirm the intent. And finally, we will then take action, either to block the IP, log, reset the account, enforce MFA, or even to raise a ticket just for follow-up. So in summary, to recap what we just demonstrated, we basically started from raw Linux authentication logs, connected the host via DataKit, and verified ingestion in TrueWatch. We even created a SIEM detection rule for authentication, mainly just to track multiple failed login attempts for a specific user with a clear window and threshold. We also triggered the rule by generating repeated failed SSH logins, and then once the detection fired, TrueWatch actually generated a security event with investigation context and delivered the alert to our team's channel for response. So in a real deployment, the next step would actually be to fine-tune this, adjusting thresholds, reducing noise, enriching the event with asset criticality and user context. This way, responders can act way faster with fewer false positives. The best detections aren't the ones that fire the most, they are the ones that fire with enough context that responders can decide the next action in minutes. So that concludes the end of our demo walkthrough. If you like, the next step will be to run a short pilot where we can connect a few representatives with you. Thank you so much for your time. See you next time.